Hello, I'm back with my June wrap-up. Now in June I read 6 books and I started reading 2 other books. And I know that's bad, but that's what happened. So let's get on with the wrap-up. The first book I read was To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han, and I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It did seem a little young. It follows a girl who wrote love letters, or just letters, to each of the boys that she fell in love with over the years. And the letters do go over several years, it's not like all at once. But somehow those letters get out and get sent to these boys. They were never meant to be sent to them. And the whole book is just about her dealing with just regular family issues and the issues of these letters being sent to the recipients that were never supposed to receive them. It's based in high school, but it seems a little young. That's why I gave it a 4 out of 5 instead of a 5. I really enjoyed the writing. I love the writing in this. But yeah, I just didn't love it as much because it seemed like it was a little young. The next book I read in June, Untamed by PC Cast and Kristen Cast, and this is book 4 of the House of Night series. I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars. It's really starting to annoy me how the main character in this doesn't cuss, and in this book they call her out on it so bad. I don't know, I think from book 1 to book 4 it has been 2 months, I think, in book time, and I think a lot could be cut out of it and have the books be much better books. Like, for one, if they weren't constantly talking about the fact that she doesn't cuss, for one, because that's actually a lot of what's going on in this book, which, meh, just meh. I am going to try to continue on with the series because I have heard that it is really good by a few close friends, but I'm not really getting it. The next book I read when I was sick, and that is The Spiderwick Chronicles, Book 1, The Field Guide by Holly Black and Tony DiTerlizzi. I have no idea how to say that. But I was really sick and I wanted to read, but I didn't want to read anything that was really deep or anything that would make me think too much, because all I really wanted to do was sleep. But I read this and it took me like 2 days because, like I said, all I really wanted to do was sleep, but whenever I was awake I wanted to read. So I would give this a 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was pretty good. It's really good for a children's book, but there were some things that were just left questioning. I know this is the first book in a series and they'll probably answer those later on in the series, but there's so many questions and not very many answers, so 4 out of 5. Then came the biannual bibliothon. And the first book I read was Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, out of this Scary Stories Treasury by Alvin Schwartz and illustrated by Stephen Gamble. And I read the first book. There's 3 in here. So I read the first book, and it's Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and it is a 5 out of 5 for me. It's a book that I read whenever I was little, so this was a reread for me, and actually this is several times over a reread for me. I used to read it around Halloween, probably once a year whenever I was little, so several times over reread for me. Love this book. Want to read the other 2 in this treasury, but yeah, I did read the first one in here. The next book I read for the biannual bibliothon was Paper Towns by John Green, and I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. This was actually a really hard time for me to be reading about this book because it deals with depression and possible suicide, and I was reading this book 2 weeks after my cousin had committed suicide. And so I'm going to be doing a review or book talk on this and talk about my feelings and what I was thinking whenever I read it, and it's going to be full of spoilers. So I'm not really going to talk about this here, but this book really affected me. The next book I started during the biannual bibliothon, but I didn't finish it during the biannual bibliothon. I actually finished it on the last day of June. And that is Between the Lines by Jodi Picoult and Samantha Van Leer. And I really enjoyed this book. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. It is like part contemporary, part fantasy, and part fairy tale. And each of the different parts have their own font color and their own like font type. The contemporary part, which follows Delilah, the main character in this book, is green. And then the fantasy part, which follows Prince Oliver, which is a character in a book, is blue. And then the fairy tale, which is actually like little excerpts out of the book that he is in, is black, but it has like purple accents for like the title and the page brackets down at the bottom are purple. So this was really interesting to read, and the different font colors made it where it was really easy to follow along, and you didn't get lost on where you were in the book. You didn't get lost on what you were following or anything like that. So I give this a 5 out of 5 stars, and I'm really hoping to pick up the sequel or companion novel off the page. So that is it for the books that I finished during June. Now for the books that I only started and didn't finish. The first of the books that I started and didn't finish is the Spiderwick Chronicles Book 2, The Seeing Stone. I only got to like page 5 in this book. I had still been trying to read whenever I was sick, and I got that far and I was like, nope, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. And then the biannual bibliothon started, and I didn't want to continue reading this because it didn't go for any of the challenges, for the reading challenges in the biannual bibliothon, so I decided not to pick this back up again. The next book I picked up and didn't finish is The Crow by James O'Barr, and I'm actually like 2/3 of the way through this, and this was another one that I had started before the biennial bibliothon, and then the bibliothon started and it didn't match any of the reading criteria for the reading challenges, so I put it down and I didn't pick it back up again. So these are all the books that I actually read in June. And that's all I have for this video, so I'll see you next time with my July TBR.